With so much manga currently available, it can be overwhelming trying to decide what to pick up, let alone what is good. In this episode, I will share with you my top 10 favorite manga of all time. So I am so excited to share with you hopefully some series you might check out for yourself for the first time, a series you might reconsider rereading again, or hopefully it will reaffirm something you already felt about a series. And before we begin, I do have a small disclaimer, is that our tastes do change over time. Now, it could be that I would reread one of these series and realize like, oh, it's not as good as I remember. It could have been nostalgia in the past. It could also be that there are many series I just haven't checked out yet. And when I read those series, that might move up or change my current top 10 list. So with all that said, this is just my personal top 10 favorite of all time. It's okay if it's not yours. It's okay if you absolutely do not like any of these titles, but I highly recommend checking these out if you haven't already, or reconsider. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the GTP. My name is Scott, and my goal is to help you find great experiences for yourself and your family. Now, starting off at number 10 of my favorite manga of all time is Blood on the Tracks. Blood on the Tracks is about an only child named Sei. Now, Sei is currently in middle school, who also has an extremely overprotective mom. The story focus is Sei trying to navigate life with his overprotective mom, who in my mind is also a narcissist and extremely manipulative. Each volume is not very wordy, and you can feel the tension in the panels with the main character's mom. When words are spoken, you can feel so heavy at times. I actually had to put Blood on the Tracks down and actually pause and take a mental break. Some of the very words spoken by the main character's mom, I have heard from a very manipulative person that affected my life when I was growing up. And what is so gripping is you never know how the main character is going to respond based on something that his mom does or says. When he makes a choice, is he choosing that because that's what he wants to do? Does he think he's making the right choice, but it's really he was manipulated by his mom, and now that's the choice that he makes? Is his mom a complete pathological liar? Is there a little bit of truth to what she's saying? Also, how does he keep her happy without the fear of maybe being hurt or attacked from his mom? It is a gripping tale. Each volume you can probably read within 20 minutes, and I guarantee by the first volume, you will know if this is a story you want to continue. I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's a big cliffhanger in the very beginning that'll help you decide whether or not you want to move forward on Blood on the Tracks. Now, number 9 is none other than Blue Period. This story is all about a high schooler named Yaguchi who discovers the world of art and now dreams of becoming a professional artist. Now, to forewarn you, Blue Period is very wordy compared to Blood on the Tracks. Blue Period helped me have such a huge appreciation for the art community and a better understanding on how difficult it can be to even go on to art school. This story has so many great nuggets on life and makes you stop to think about your own life. The heart of the story is genuinely believing in what you're doing. This story is all about pursuing your dreams, pursuing your ambitions, even if others in life say it's silly or there's no point. I absolutely loved the main character as I was cheering him on as he was working so hard with such tenacity, such sacrifice, even at times of his own health, just so that he can become a better artist. It made me ask my question of what craft do I want to pursue with all my heart, with all my passion, and how can I have people around me that can help encourage and help remind me that, hey, it's okay to pursue your dreams. This series is phenomenal. I highly recommend checking out Blue Period. And if you'd like more information about the series, if you click the eye on the top right hand corner, you can see my review of Blue Period. Coming in at number 8 is Vinland Saga, the story all about Vikings. This was the first manga I read where my jaw dropped as I turned the pages in the 4th volume. What starts out as a story about revenge turned itself on its head as you progress through the story. I might have read Vinland Saga faster than any other manga I own. The storytelling takes you on twists and turns that you would never expect while reading the story. The main character, Thorfinn, is a phenomenal character as you watch him grow up from a childhood to adulthood, dealing with the different adversities that continue to lay in front of his path. At an early age, already having to deal with tragedy, growing through with this idea of revenge, and then all of a sudden takes him onto a complete different trajectory. The artwork is fantastic and has some of the best action sequences in a manga. It was also interesting learning more about a Viking's perspective and just how they viewed life. Such as right before they're going to kill someone, they would hand them a sword, so that way when they kill that person, at least they could go to Valhalla. It was also interesting seeing the perspective that the Vikings could not understand that the Christians would not fight back, or that the Christians chose not to attack, yet instead would lay down their life for someone else. This is an epic tale and a masterpiece of historical fiction. So that's Vinland Saga. Coming in at number 7 is Orange. What would you do if you started receiving letters from the future warning you of upcoming events and sharing with you what to do instead? The main character learns that through these letters that they have the possibility of saving the life of one of their friends. And what I love about Orange is the bond and the friendship the characters have for one another. The story reminded me of the bond of friendship similar to the video game Persona 4 and Persona 5. You can't help but feel like you are part of the group as you're journeying together with this phenomenal cast of characters. When I was in high school, I would have loved to have a group of friends like you see in Orange. You can't help but smile when you're following the group around as they navigate high school and trying to help a friend out. Without giving any spoilers, it's also amazing the sacrifices they're willing to make for each other. This is a story that even moved me to shed a little tear as I was reading through the narrative. So with that said, check out Orange. It's only 6 volumes. It's a great story as you're following a group of teenagers through high school and trying to band together to save one of their friends' life. At number 6 of the greatest manga of all time is Komi Can't Communicate. My most recent review and the most recent manga I have read to make this list. I'm so glad I did. Komi is about a girl who has a major communication disorder who is struggling to talk yet wants to develop friendships. This series is all about Komi's journey of making friendships along the way through high school. This series is incredibly wholesome, cozy, hilarious. You just can't help but smile while you're reading Komi Can't Communicate as you follow her and the friends around her. This series is also the perfect series when you are exhausted after a long day, yet you still want something to read. I highly recommend checking out Komi Can't Communicate. If you'd like to see more information about this phenomenal series, if you click the eye on the top right hand corner, you can see my most recent manga review of Komi Can't Communicate. Now coming in at number 5 is My Hero Academia. And I will say I am just a little biased when it comes to this manga. This is a manga that started my journey down the rabbit hole of collecting manga. During the start of the pandemic, I started watching anime again after not watching anything for almost 10 years. And I was hooked from the first episode of My Hero Academia. This is the story of Midoriya, who has the dream of becoming a superhero but is born without any superpowers in a world where 80% of the planet has some sort of superpower called quirks. Midoriya acquires a superpower of his own, and you watch him as he grows up and develops his newfound power. This is the superhero story I wish was in Western comics when I was growing up as a kid. My Hero Academia has a phenomenal cast of characters as you watch Midoriya go through his superhero high school. There are many characters to easily fall in love with, and yet you're still rooting at the same time for Midoriya as he tries to achieve his dreams over and over again through success and failure. The story also has some phenomenal world building and storytelling as you're dealing with a society where now 80% of the world has some kind of quirk, this type of superpower. What do you do in that kind of society? What do you do as more generations come up with stronger and more powerful abilities? How do you handle that? How do you handle law and order? What do you do when you have a person that has a superpower that's actually quite dangerous? Even if that person might be a good person themselves, what if that superpower still hurt people anyways? What would be the consequence for that person? This story is full of suspense, strategy, success, failure, and has a overall great villain. I absolutely highly recommend checking out. The story is just simply amazing. My Hero Academia. Now it seems that each manga channel has at least one manga that they praise more than any other, yet other channels don't talk about it, or it's not a manga series that's very well known. And if I had to pick one series to praise more than any other that I just feel literally is a hidden gem of a series that everyone I hope checks out, that is coming in at number 4, Land of the Lustrous. The story takes place in the future over 1,000 years from now, and humans no longer exist. Yet out of this new world are these crystallized life forms called lustrous, and they're made of different elements of the earth, such as mercury, diamond, ruby, and so on. And the gems also do not age, allowing them to live forever. The only problem is that they have a mysterious enemy that comes from the moon that tries to take the gems away. Each time they are invaded by the moon, it is a battle of survival for these gems. They never know when the moon will attack. Some of the gems have been taken and never returned. Some parts of the gem's body have shattered during battle, and those shattered pieces were picked up by the moon enemies and taken away. And when pieces of a gem is taken away and removed from their body, it also takes away some of the memories of the gems. And you never know what memories are necessarily going to be gone. It's just not there anymore. So you can feel the weight and the toll of not only losing a comrade, but for the other comrades as they now just have lost certain memories of relationships or other people that were around them that's now, it's just not there. And it's interesting, sometimes a decision some of the gems make, you might not see the ramifications for that decision for hundreds of years later. So you can also feel that toll of seeing hundreds of years pass over time as you read through these books. Land of the Lustrous has had me more emotional than any other story I have read. It's a great sci-fi mystery as you're trying to understand, why do these moon people keep trying to invade? What are they really after? Why do they keep taking the gems? As you follow along the main character, it can take years, sometimes years and years and years, through the story until they can unwrap the mystery. And another highlight is that the series is not very wordy if you're looking for a series that you could read fairly quickly. I'm also happy to say that this recently was announced to no longer be on hiatus, as the series kind of ended on a big cliffhanger, and it was on hiatus for about 2 years. So if this is a series that intrigues your interest just a little bit, I would highly recommend checking it out. Now the artwork is a little different, but as the author progresses over time, you can see the artwork improve from the first volume to the last volume that is available. So check out Land of the Lustrous. Now coming in at number 3 is Pluto. Pluto is a retelling of the greatest robot that ever lived. The manga goes into exploring the question, what would it be like for humans and artificial intelligence to coexist, or AI? Now in this story, AI owns homes, they can adopt children, and many of them have the same basic rights that we have as humans. Now the manga starts out as the most advanced AI robots are being slowly assassinated one after another. And you actually follow this advanced AI robot detective as he tries to unravel the mystery to find out who is targeting these robots. It is an incredible murder mystery story that will keep you guessing and at the edge of your seat until the very end of its satisfying conclusion. Pluto has some terrific world building and it's only 8 volumes long. It's interesting the dynamics of watching through a robot's perspective as you have humans that don't treat them well. It's a society where the robots and the humans are almost somewhat against each other, yet they're supposed to coexist in harmony. I don't want to give too many spoilers because it's a short series, but it's one you should definitely check out if you haven't already. Now coming in at number 2 is actually written by the same author, Nikara Asara, as Pluto, and that is 20th Century Boys. The story starts off with the main character Kenji, whose old friend all of a sudden commits suicide. And during that investigation, not everything appears as it seems as Kenji and his whole friend group come back together as they try to unravel the mystery of what happened. As kids, Kenji and his friends created a fictional story about an evil group that would take over the world. And little by little, it's as if everything they wrote down as kids in that story is now happening in real life. This story kept me guessing every step of the way as you follow this mystery with Kenji and his friends. In this story, you'll have flashbacks as you follow Kenji and his friends when they grew up as kids. You'll see flash forwards of things that happen in the future to them, and then you'll actually see things happening in the present day. And it's interesting to see how all 3 of these type of timelines interlap with each other as you're reading the story. And the author does a good job of holding your hand so you're not too confused on trying to understand which which timeline are we in. And what I love about 20th Century Boys is that many times the story took twists that I did not see coming. Just when my brain thought the story was going to go one direction, it actually created a path I didn't even know existed and went down that road instead. It's a very gripping tale. It's a phenomenal story. It's some of the best storytelling I have seen and read in a manga. After reading 20th Century Boys, I wasn't sure if I'd ever even find another manga that can come close to its type of storytelling, and it actually motivated me as a person who wants to create a story himself to be a better writer. Now we're on to number 1. It was really hard after talking of 20th Century Boys to share that there might be a manga that's slightly better, but there is one in my mind, and that is One Piece. There is something to be said about a manga that has over 1,000 chapters and is still good. It is amazing that One Piece is still going on over 20 years and is still at its peak. That in itself is an amazing achievement. Now, I've only read volumes 1 through 70, but I'm still captivated by its sheer storytelling. And for some reason you're not aware, One Piece is about this main character Luffy who has this dream of becoming king of the pirates, and you follow him on his journey as he gathers more people onto his crew and they travel the world together. One Piece also has some of the best world building and storytelling I have experienced. Each of Luffy's crew could have its own manga series in itself. You are invested and you care deeply about each member of his crew. There are plenty of laugh out and quotable moments in this series, such as one of my favorites my daughter and I have with each other is, "You should have struck a pose." Now, I won't give spoilers if you haven't seen that before, but it was one scene that my daughter and I were just belly laughing with this idea of, you should have struck a pose. Now going on, again, I've only read through volume 70, but we still love the series. It's a fun series for my daughter and I to read together and talk about each volume. It's also phenomenal where I believe there's actually over 1,000 characters that have names to them in this story. It really is a gigantic story that keeps building upon itself over and over again. And you see things slowly get tied in to each of the past books. It's amazing me to see that things you'll read in volume 50 will have a tie-in to something that you might have read in volume 18 or 19. Now, it can be overwhelming, the idea of reading over 100 volumes of One Piece. And I love at the end of each major arc, the author makes sure that the crew takes time to celebrate. It's perfect to not always be go, 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 but also be able to take time to celebrate your own journeys. Take time to celebrate your own accomplishments in life. And again, it can feel a little intimidating over 1,000 chapters. So if you were going to just check out One Piece, I'd actually highly recommend just start with the first box set. The first box set is only 23 volumes, and that would give you enough of a taste of this series. It's okay to read this series at your own pace. Now, even though last year I read all 70 volumes, and I have the fourth box set which goes from 71 through 90, I have not yet chosen to start that series. I have decided to slow down a little more before I go ahead and I start the next arc. One Piece also does a phenomenal job where you just don't feel lost. Each page does a good job of making you be fully aware of what happened beforehand. I love how there's a little synopsis of each characters, and you can tell just how much blood, sweat, tears, and love is poured into each panel. The characters just has so much heart. Oda, the author, has done such a phenomenal job. It is amazing to be 20 plus years in, and yet everyone's calling the last arc that just came out the best arc yet in the series. That happens around the 100th volume. So that's my top 10 manga of all time, and my goal is to hopefully make this a yearly summer tradition. Who knows next year what might be in the top 10 or how my top 10 will change as I read new series and new manga comes out. There are series I have behind me that I know might be in that top 10. Some notable mentions is I have Vagabond, but I haven't read it yet. I also have Monster, and I haven't read that one yet. So I know there are some notable titles that I just have in my collection that I haven't had an opportunity to read. If you'd like to see more content like this, would you like and subscribe to the channel? This helps let our small community know that we exist, and we'd love for each person to join us on this journey together. And those of you who have subscribed already, I just want to say thank you. You have no idea just how much it means to me to see you join this small community together. My goal when I make these videos is if I can help at least one person, then everything is worth it. And I was almost moved to tears to see that I'm already close to almost 100 subscribers. So thank you so much for journeying alongside of us, learning together, and discovering manga. So in the comments below, would you mind sharing for myself and others what are some great manga that you believe are worthy of the top 10 of all time? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.